Hi, I'm Larry, and I work at Flexpa. Flexpa is the simplest and easiest way to connect your users' health records. Today, I'd like to walk you through how to set up Flexpa with an existing application. We'll start by setting up Flexpa Link, Flexpa's consent flow, with an application's front end. We'll then talk about how to use that consent so that your backend can request a user's health records. As you'll see, the process of getting Flexpa up and running is pretty simple. So let's dive in. So this is our existing user-facing application that we'll be modifying to add Flexpa. As you can see, we have a basic onboarding experience for a generic healthcare application. Let's say that Health Connect would like to use the records that we can get from Flexpa for an identified business need. So how do we go about getting a user's consent to share that data with us? So we'll walk through this application's onboarding. It'll ask us some basic questions about ourselves. Ask us a few basic health questions. And so here we have a page that we've decided would be a good place to put the Flexpa consent flow. In general, you'll want to add language communicating Flexpa's value prop and to help build trust with your users. So you'll see that we've added some language communicating why a user would want to connect their records, as well as reassurances about our security and privacy policies. So we'll be modifying this screen so that a user can launch Flexpa Link and consent to share their data. So let's hop into the code and get started. Here's the code base for our healthcare application, Health Connect. In this case, it's a pretty standard React app with a front end, the client, and a back end, the server. So the first thing we'll want to do is add our environmental variables to our app. Once you start with Flexpa, you'll be given a set of keys via our portal, a publishable key for your front end, and a secret key for your backend. You want to keep these safe in your environment and not publicly commit these. So we'll add our publishable key to our front end. I'm using Vite, so I'll need to prefix the variable name with Vite. And I'll copy and paste that from Flexpa portal. And we'll do the same for our secret key and our backend. Now that that's out of the way, let's focus on our front end and add Flexpa's consent flow, Flexpa Link. Flexpa has an npm package to make this easy, but if you prefer, you can also add the script tag directly to your HTML. I'll go ahead and install the npm package. So I'll cd into the client. I'll do npm install at flexpa/link. Now I'll navigate to the component we identified earlier as the one we'd like to add the consent flow to. First, I'll import the Flexpa Link package we just installed. Then we'll create a button that will create and launch Flexpa Link. Down here, we'll create a standard button. We'll call it Launch Link. We'll give it a class name. I've got some styling already set up. And then we will give it an on-click handler. Great. Now we have the button and we just need to add the on-click handler. So we'll create the function. We actually have the code you'll need to implement already written in our quick start documentation at flexpa.com/docs. So I'll head over there and just copy and paste the code. So I'll copy the two methods that we need and paste those in. So our two methods are flexpa-link.create, which will configure and create the link specific for the user, and flexpa-link.open, which will launch the Flexpa consent flow we have just configured. As you can see, we pass a few different parameters to flexpa-link.create. I'll need to import our publishable key. We have a user parameter, which is an external ID to help you identify the user launching Flexpa Link. We also have a required usage parameter. You can see that we currently have one time chosen. Flexpa has two usage patterns you can use. One time, when you only need to connect to a user's data once, and multiple use, when you need ongoing consent to obtain updated records for your users. Health Connect would like ongoing access, so I'll change this to multiple. Once a user completes the Flexpa consent flow, we'll send you a public token, which you'll receive via this onSuccess callback. You'll send this public token to your backend to be used to exchange for an access token. That access token is what your backend will use to then request the member's records. I'll go ahead and update the API route for the exchange to match what our backend will be. And finally, to our front end, I'll add navigation to the next page to our onSuccess callback. And that's it for the front end. As you can see, it's pretty quick and easy to get set up. We do provide some additional customization options that you can pass to flexpa-link.create, which you can read about in our documentation. But this is the minimum you'll need to get started. Now let's turn to the back end. This application's backend is built using Node.js and Express. So let's add a new Express router for our Flexpa API and set up 2 routes. An exchange route to get the access token that we'll need to start pulling records, and a records route we can use to actually get a member's records via Flexpa's API. So I'll start by creating a new file and call it flexpa.ts. I'll import Express, and then I'll set up the router. Now I'm going to set up a map to be able to store the access token. This is really just for quick and easy demonstration purposes. In reality, it's very important to store this access token securely using your application's database. Now let's set up the exchange route. This will be the route that receives the public token from the request we implemented in the onSuccess callback, and then uses that token to make a request to the Flexpa API for an access token. Okay, now we have an exchange route that takes the public token we get from our backend, uses it along with our secret key to obtain an access token from the Flexpa API, and then stores that access token. Again, you would want to store this access token securely were this a real integration. Next, we'll set up a route to actually get a user's records. I'm not going to go too in depth on Flexpa's API in this video, but we'll use what's called the patient everything operation to request all of a user's patient compartmentalized claims records. Flexpa works closely with our customers to help you get the exact data you need depending on your use case. So we're always here to help guide an implementation, but this will be a great place to start. So let's create our records route. And now that we have the access token, we can use it on the authorization header and make a request to Flexpa's API. That's going to be api.flexpa.com/fire/patient/patient ID, and that's going to be the patient wildcard. Basically, we're going to take the patient ID that's on the access token and replace that /everything. Then we'll add the headers. Need to add a content type header. And then we will send the response. Finally, we'll export our router. And that's it for making the records route. Again, we're just taking the access token from our database, or our store in this case. Then we're going to use that on the authorization to make a request to the patient everything route and return the records that we get. So we'll go back into app.ts and we'll import the router. And add it to the app.use. And that's it. So with that done, we'll start running our application. So we're already in the client here, so we can run npm run dev, and we will create a new terminal, and we'll cd into the server, and we'll do npm run dev as well. And then we'll take our route. So here's our application. We'll go through the flow. Don't smoke, feeling pretty good, none of the above. And we've got the Flexpa consent flow integrated into our app now. So I'll click launch link and it'll bring up the Flexpa link modal. So the user is going to be able to search for their health plan. I'll just choose Humana because I've got a test user for that. The user will go through this flow. They'll be redirected to Humana's screen. And then we'll start syncing the data once they're through that flow. So in the background, Flexpa is pulling all their data from Humana and making it available to our app. And we're all set. So in reality, you could take this data, you could use it to show the user something about their data, or you can just use it for a background business process. But we now have access to the Flexpa API and can pull that member's data. So to demonstrate that, I'll pull up Postman here. Here's the route we created, and I'll hit send. And we get their information. We get all of their patient compartmentalized data. And there you have it. We've successfully added Flexpa to an existing application in just a few minutes. As you can see, getting set up with Flexpa is pretty straightforward. As always, our team is here to help you every step along the way. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're super excited to see what you'll build.